Perfect. So if you could just talk to me about your journey on how you got into product.
Yeah, so I actually did a bachelor's in human nutrition and a master's in public health. So I was just interested, I'd been like a group fitness instructor from the age of 16, and
really?
I just wanted to help people. That's what I wanted to do. And I started, I went to King's College in London. I migrated from Australia to go to university here. And King's College ran like how to be an entrepreneur course in the end of the last year of your bachelor's that you could just go along to. And I just thought, I want to help people, but I also want to run my own business. That's what I want to do. So I actually got into product because I was part of a Channel 4 TV show called Make Me a Million. So it was sort of like the Channel 4's answer to what's the one on BBC? Alan Sugar.
Oh,
it's their answer to The Apprentice.
Yes. Oh, wow. I've never heard of it.
It was a flop, absolute flop. They did one season, that was enough. But my business partner and I, we were basically trying to develop like executive health coaching for people in the City of London. And he put us forward for this TV show because you got access to a millionaire mentor. And the guy who was mentor for us for 12 months, a guy named, actually his name doesn't matter, so we'll leave that one out. He said, it's great you want to help people, but I want you to help 1 million people. How are you going to do that? So he had a very big idea of like, what we need to do is virtualize what you're doing, and then make a system. So that's how I got into product. I basically became the product owner for my startup, but having no experience of technology whatsoever, just sort of health expertise.
Wow.
So that's how I got into product. And then I really found like, it sort of met all of the things that I'm quite good at. Like I'm a bit of a pessimist. I think you said you're a pessimist earlier. I feel like really good product owners can be a bit pessimistic because they're always thinking about what's going to go wrong or what do I need to cover. And I'm a good problem solver as well. I like getting into we've got to balance this and balance that out. So that's how I got into being a product manager. And then we did a merger. We got acquired by a mental health sort of e-health, e-technology sort of provider that worked with the NHS. And I ended up becoming their head of product. So I just sort of did what I loved, and then sort of things progressed from there.
Brilliant.
I ended up working for a US healthcare company quite soon after leaving that last company. So I've sort of gone from a startup right through to multinational, trying to work across 4 continents to launch a product.
Wow, that's a really good story as well, your journey into product, one of the most interesting ones so far. So when you got into product, had you heard of it before you kind of went on that TV show?
No, never heard of it before.
Wow. And when you look back on that, do you think that when you joined product, it is how it is now? Or do you think that it's developed a lot, it's completely different?
I think it's definitely developed, but I think I went in completely clueless. I was just passionate about, I want to develop this service. We were trying to virtualize a nutritionist. So you could like have a check-in with a virtual nutritionist. And I was really interested in how we get that working. And then I thought after the initial experience, I don't have like such a specialized skill set that I have. I don't think I'll ever find a job. And once I heard about, oh no, this is like a product, this is like a career track. I started realizing I had a lot of those skills. I just needed to get out of the idea that it had to be that particular topic. And I think going from sort of healthy eating into healthcare and then mental health, and then we did cancer counseling, we did lots of other things across my experience in healthcare. And then recently I just jumped over to education. And I actually found it easier than I expected to jump topics completely from an area of my expertise into something that was very different.
Yeah.
And I think that it's all of the product owner skills or the product manager skills that I built up that made that easy to swap over. So
Okay.
I think it's always good to sort of get your product skills honed. Don't be too tied into that idea that, oh, I just do health or I just do finance or something.
Yeah. Do you think that that helped you to start with, though, being really honed in on in health? Because and then once you've got that experience, then you can transfer it quite a lot into different industries, but just initially that focus helped.
Yeah, I think definitely. I think when people employ a product owner or a manager, they're looking for either a specialist person who can do product, or they're looking for a product person that has some experience in their area. It's always the topic that matters.
Yeah, perfect. So obviously the conversation that we've had is that you took that time out to then actually go and upskill yourself technically. How did you come about that, and what was it that made you think that you wanted to do that?
Yeah, so so I worked for a multinational. I made some good money. It was very stressful, that job. And actually, I found myself butting up against the head of technology very regularly.
Okay.
And I thought, why aren't we speaking the same language here? I'm smart, you're smart. It doesn't seem like it should be this difficult.
Yeah.
And when that role came to an end, I thought, do I get another job? Or actually, well, why don't I try and address this issue that maybe if I speak the language of technology better, this situation wouldn't happen again. And it was a bit brave or a bit courageous. I wouldn't say it was stupid because it's worked out really well, but I think sometimes you've got to be a little bit stupid to take risks. You don't want to stay completely safe. No. So what I did is I just found a job that would pay the bills in a charity that I'm sort of associated with. And I just focused on, right, how am I going to learn technology? Well, like, where do I start?
Yeah, I think that's the point. And where do you start? Is there a particular, if you're in a particular industry, is there a particular area you should start in, or how do you go about that?
Yeah, I actually don't think, whatever industry you're in, I don't think the language of that industry, like, let's say I've worked for a lot of companies that use Java. And I thought, well, should I learn Java? But actually, I didn't. I picked something that I was interested in and something that I thought, oh, yeah, that'd be great. So, you know, I am a bit of a technology geek. So I do like Apple, I do like Google. And I was just looking around for like, well, maybe I can develop it like a mobile phone app, because I can do the product side and I've never been able to do the tech side. So why don't I just learn how you do that? So initially I was learning Swift, which is the Apple development language. Yeah. And I found that really good, but it was so frustrating to begin with. Because it really is like learning another language.
Yes.
So I'd say my biggest tip when I tell people, like, oh, if you want to learn something, go to a place like Udemy, where you can get a £20 course that will take you right through how to develop apps from scratch. And it is a bit like, you know, you're doing a course and you're following it through, but you're doing that just so that you understand how you do things. Yes. And then the real learning comes when you say, right, I'm going to do my own thing now.
And how do you feel that now that you've done that, do you think that has helped you in communicating with, like, you know, head of technology, those kind of people? And do you think that you've kind of got a bit more respect from them, saying that you've gone out and done that?
Yeah, definitely. So in my current role, I came on board and we were supposed to launch a product that hadn't been agreed, that the budget had been set and a deadline for delivery had been set. Yeah. And I basically needed to do quite a lot of work with this one developer. And if we weren't able to speak the same language, managed to throw things together. I was working on Figma to do the UI and do the user experience testing, writing the user stories and acceptance criteria.
Yeah.
And then we could just have a conversation about, no, that green's wrong. I need you to use this color from the material library. There's no way I would have been able to have that conversation if I hadn't used the material library from Google in my own app.
Yeah.
And then while he was coding in React and I had never used it, the basic principles were the same. And so we could talk in a much more detailed level, not about what decisions, but like what's driving this limitation that we're talking about.
Brilliant. And do you think that there's a part to it where, you know, developers don't want you to be involved, or do you think that generally they want people to learn their language as such and actually get involved in their work?
I think it does come down to the culture of each organization, to be honest.
Yeah.
I definitely worked with developers that really want to be involved and really like to chat. And then I've worked with some development teams where, as a product owner, they were trying to keep me out of the Scrum ceremonies, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So I always think it does come down to, well, what's the team like and what's driving that? And I think sometimes it's the culture that drives that more. But, you know, just like one of the skills of a good product owner is being able to communicate with everyone, just like you have to learn, you know, you have to learn what's important to a nurse if you're going to train them to use a piece of kit. For them, it's like, it's got to be quick and it's got to be easy. With the developer, some developers, they don't particularly care if you know their language, but they care that you respect what they do. So it's communicating respect sometimes.
Brilliant. And now when you're kind of working in your product management role, would you say that you can actually get involved with development teams? If they're behind, would you jump in and get involved, or do you have to keep that line between this is my job and this is their job?
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on some configuration files for a website today, because if I don't do it, it'll take 3 weeks, and I'll just jump in there and do it. And it's simple enough to do, isn't it? I think you know, if you've got a very tight organization and everyone must stay in their lane, then sometimes you just say, well, that needs to happen. Sometimes when it's just like, just get it done, we need to do this, you'll pull out all the stops.
Absolutely. It depends on the type of organization.
When one of the benefits I've noticed from having put the effort in to learn the technology is that I'm such a well-rounded product owner now in comparison to what I was before. So because I've designed something a few times, I can say quite quickly, like, okay, I'm at the limits of my knowledge, but we've got a whole website designed from that. And then I don't have much design time, but I can ask the designer to just tidy up what I've done. I can do the UX testing completely because I've used Figma or, you know, InVision before. And when it comes to sort of having conversations about, you know, should we be building this in native or should we be using something like React? I know what that is, and I can say, well, we're going to need the accelerometer, so it has to be native. Or we could do this,
so you can actually make informed decisions which you're confident in, because I suppose that if you're not speaking someone's language, you're kind of relying on them to make that decision, and that must make you feel quite helpless as well, that, you know, you're putting, as much as it's a team effort, you kind of want to know what's going into it to get your outcome, rather than just agreeing that they're the experts. That's the thing to do.
And the way I put it is that sometimes we can paint ourselves into a corner with some early choices we make. And if you don't know that you're making that choice, then you aren't able to do your job so well. Whereas now I will say, well, just so you know, there's this other thing we're going to do, and I don't want to paint ourselves in a corner for that. And the developer will just go, oh yeah, great, that's fine, good to tell me. So even if you don't get into the details, you know that early decisions are really important when it comes to designing things.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said there, they might not have known that your plan is to do this further on down the line, which they wouldn't realise that is painting themselves in a corner. So because you can see that coming, it's that communication. I think communication in any industry is key, isn't it? So if you are speaking different languages, it's really difficult to do. Do you think that you can be too technical and actually, you know, that people coming in, I've been talking quite a lot recently about the different backgrounds people can come into within products. As you mentioned, you know, there's so many different ways to come in. Do you think that you can be too technical and from the other side actually have to upskill yourself the other way?
Oh, definitely. I think I would say I came from the non-technical background and needed to upskill in the technical. But if you've come from a software engineering background and you want to get into making the decisions, which is what a lot of developers see product ownership is, it's actually just balancing people's demands, really. I think you have to become so customer centric. You have to learn how to obsess about people's problems and how you're going to solve their problems in a way that, you know, you need to be as interested in that as in like, how are we going to build an efficient system?
Yeah.
One of the challenges can be is how do you get across that you can do this one and that one? You know, it's difficult to communicate that. I had a conversation with an organization for a role, and they said, oh, they went with someone less technical. And I just went, oh, okay, well, thanks for letting me know. But actually, that I'm not from the technical track.
No.
I'm from the customer focused track, but somehow that didn't quite get communicated. So I think I think it's a real struggle to communicate when you can do one or the other or both.
Yeah, exactly. And it's about your limits with both, isn't it? You know, you've taken the time out to upskill yourself technically. It doesn't mean you come from a technical background. But did you always have that interest when you you know, when you started your career? Did you always have? You mentioned that, you know, you like your kind of gadgets and you like working with Apple. Have you always had that technical interest, or was that something that you've had to learn?
When I think about when I started, I wasn't particularly interested in electronics and gadgets. I think my interest developed as I was working with developers and like asking stupid questions, really. I'm a big fan of stupid questions. They help you learn.
Absolutely.
But I think I developed the interest, and then I also saw the way that product is going. Like if we're not working with machine learning in the next 10 years, any organization I'm working for is probably not going to be successful. So I thought that's something important to learn and get interested in. So, you know, even if it's just watching YouTube videos about what machine learning is and how does it work, I think that's really good background. Like Google has some really good free courses on that. You can just watch it and answer a few questions, and you're engaging with that process. Funnily enough, I found that it was really interesting to me because of all the statistics I did in my healthcare degrees. So I found that there was something else that I really enjoyed in healthcare that was here in technology.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And I think that you're right there, and it doesn't have to be, you know, you kind of took it to the extreme, and you went out and you took time out and actually developed, you know, your own app, and that's really cool. However, it doesn't have to be that. I think that, you know, we live in a world where time is really short, especially at the moment. You're trying to be really careful with your work-life balance, with developing your career. Everyone wants everything from life, and really you could just do half an hour every now and then, you know, just continue that learning and making sure that you're, like you say, asking stupid questions as well. You're never going to learn unless you ask stupid questions. But I know for me to learn a new skill, it's a lot of time that it takes. So splitting that into little chunks can actually be, you know, really beneficial. So where being a product manager now, what is the one main thing that you say that why you think doing that has made you a better product manager?
Doing the work with like learning tech and getting in there. So to go back to your point about product is all about communication, I think it's helped me to be a better communicator and ask smarter questions. So just like I'm a fan of stupid questions, I think learning the tech has allowed me to say, what about this? And then the conversation goes in a direction where we get to the point where we make a decision quicker. And when you're balancing so many stakeholders' needs, getting to that decision is really crucial.
Yeah, and that brings into everything around teamwork, isn't it? Because you're giving ideas to other people, you're discussing things, which is creating new ideas. So that's brilliant, and that's I think that a lot of people will use that in their kind of actually going out and upskilling themselves. So